Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a great Tuesday. Today, we are talking about music and the great influence and impact of music on our lives, because we as human beings are constantly exposed to music, whether we like it or we don't like it. And even if we don't know how to play musical instruments, guess what? We ourselves are musical instruments. Our presence as souls having a human experience is actually music in itself, because we are constantly vibrating, we are holding frequencies, we are a frequency, and therefore, we and music are directly connected and we mirror one another. This is why I chose to talk about this topic today. I will start with something very interesting I heard by Michael Spitzer, who is a musical expert. And he says that the rhythm of walking is what stamped human music when humans first discovered that they can actually take one step after another and move on planet Earth. We learn to hear footsteps as a pattern. And what patterns give us is a sense of time, because there's predictability. When you take one step, you can predict what happens next. This is reflecting the experience of walking on Earth. So we, and as humans, are midway between the skies and the earth. We can situate ourselves. The bird song, for instance, is as jerky as the motions of the bird, while whales have a fluid rhythm of floating through their own medium. The human music, on the other hand, reflects walking. And when we say, music moves, that's a metaphor. It's not really moving, but we imagine that one note is moving into the other. So whether we're listening to a song or we're listening to a symphony, the music unfolds a journey taking us from one point to another point in our minds. And that's why music penetrates deep into ourselves, deep into our psyche, and involving different layers of our brain, from the parts of our brain that first evolved to the newest parts of our brain. It triggers and stimulates the brainstem. It triggers and stimulates the amygdala. It triggers and stimulates the frontal neocortex. So this connection between music and motion is of the utmost significance, because it puts a lot of things into perspective. What makes human music so distinctive is due to the connections in our brain, the regions controlling motion and the regions controlling hearing and sound. Therefore, music is one of the ways in which the soul expresses itself in 3D reality. Music has the power to take us to the highest highs or bring us down to the lowest lows. Music can trigger and stimulate happiness. Music can reduce stress. Music has the power to reawaken memories, to reawaken traumas, and to help us transmute negative emotions so that we can get rid of them. So music plays so many different roles in our lives. Music is an important aspect of nature, because everything in nature is making music, even if the human ears cannot hear it. Everything is vibrating, everything is producing sound. Trees express themselves in different ways and make different sounds, and every sound that trees make is actually an expression of something that the tree is trying to communicate, or expressing a state of beingness of the tree itself, even though the human ears cannot hear it. As humans, we can hear between 20 hertz and 20,000 hertz. Animals, on the other hand, like dogs, for example, can hear between 40 hertz and 60,000 hertz, exceeding that of humans. And that's why they're more attuned to danger, they're more attuned to survival. And animals can detect danger before we can, because they have the ability to hear this inaudible sounds. And again, when it comes to the spiritual realm, animals have the ability to detect sounds and see visuals that the untrained human eye cannot see. There's a famous saying that, and I can't remember exactly, I didn't research who said it. Someone said that architecture is frozen music, and that's one of the most beautiful things that I've ever heard. So just because we think of the metaphor that music moves, it doesn't mean that it literally moves. Even a frozen piece of art has music. A frozen piece of art that's standing in one single place at a certain time has these vibrations and is producing sound it is expressing itself in a way. We just have to train our senses and learn to listen. This is why nowadays you can even hear the music that leaves make. The rustling of leaves is audible to humans, but there are different sounds that trees and plants and mushrooms and vegetation and fruits make that we cannot hear. But nowadays there are certain ways to hear them. There are certain equipment and microphones that can amplify sounds and enable you to hear symphonies, for example, that mushrooms play, which is very, very exciting. It shows you that the levels of consciousness that permeate everything that exists on this planet. Music happens to be one of the strongest tools to program the mind. It's one of the strongest tools to evoke emotions. It's one of the strongest tools to manipulate the population. That's why it's used as a mainstream weapon, if you will. The music that we listen to in mainstream, the mainstream music that we listen to, whether it's through social media or even through the radios or on different platforms and different apps, is actually based on 440 hertz. 440 hertz as a frequency, according to so many studies, is one that triggers feelings of being so tired. It's really bad for the human cells. It triggers feelings of anger, aggression, and it causes negative thinking. Therefore, you can listen to a song and not know that it's 440 hertz, that the frequency that it's being played at is 440 hertz. This has nothing to do with the lyrics. It just has to do with the frequency that, that's played within that song. If music, mainstream media, is based on 440 hertz, we cannot help but wonder what is the reason behind that, and here conspiracy theories that we think are just conspiracy theories might actually be true. That is one of the ways to control the masses. So to cause people to feel tired, to lower their frequency, to lower their vibration, to make them feel depleted and not have enough energy most of the time, and to make them lean more towards aggression and aggressiveness and lose connection with one another. On the other hand, the right music, the right songs have a frequency of 432 hertz. So you can have two similar songs, one with 440 hertz and one with 432 hertz. And that's a study that's been done. The people who listen to the 440 hertz displayed signs of negative thinking and aggression and anger and stress, while those who listened to 432 hertz felt peace, felt tranquility, felt happiness, felt joy. So really, this makes you wonder, why is it that they do what they do? Why do they want to control us like that? So this is a time of awakening, and this is why speaking about music is very important, so that we're just aware of our choices as we go about our day, instead of being negatively primed by other sources. So make sure you choose the music that you want to listen to carefully, and pick music that's 432 hertz based and not 440 hertz based. So the fact that music interacts with our cells, interacts with our different levels of our brain, evokes our emotions, also means that the words that we associate with that music and the lyrics that move along with the song have a strong impact on our brain and on our electromagnetic field, our field of existence. That is why we have to be very careful to the words that we listen to, because if you're listening to sad music, your body will immediately start to associate itself with that music. Even if you're aware that it's just a song that you're listening to, subconsciously, you are interacting with that music. You are entangling with those frequencies. They're becoming a part of your electromagnetic field. And that's why music is really powerful. So you have to really be very wise and be very discerning and choose to listen to music that will resemble the reality that you are trying to attract or create. If you want to be a happy, joyful person most of the time, but you're listening to sad music about heartbreaks and about misery and about suffering most of the time, then your happiness and your joy will be a little tougher to achieve, because you're filling and feeding yourself, your ears and your brain and your emotional body, with the wrong words, with words that don't have that frequency that you are trying to achieve, no matter how aware you are. So always choose to listen to music, not just with the right frequency, but with lyrics that resemble the state of being and the emotional state that you are trying to embody and the reality that you are trying to create and attract for yourself. Music triggers imagery, it triggers visualization. When you listen to certain symphonies, for example, if you're listening to classical music or if you're listening to slow songs, you might visualize yourself walking through meadows with trees and different colors of flowers, etc. If you're listening to techno music or music that's, very with this very fast vibe, you might imagine yourself working out heavily, or it can actually help you with your workouts. If if you're at the gym, it can have the effect of strengthening your workout for you. On the other hand, if you listen to certain frequencies while you're working out and these frequencies do not resonate well with your cells, you might feel tired afterwards. So here you have to really use your discernment when you listen to music. And there are many people who have experimented with this and who have noticed that when they listen to certain music at the gym, they really feel tired. I remember one of the gyms I used to go to, they used to play this really annoying music and it used to make me really tired really quickly. I would start my workout and I would feel exhausted in no time. And I had to talk to them and ask them to change the music because I could feel its effect on my body biologically. So this is how powerful music actually is. You play music for plants to grow. Certain classical musical pieces have that influence on plants. And even, if you talk to plants and you say positive things, you would help them grow. And if you say negative things to plant, you will cause them to die and to wilt and to die. And imagine, if you play the right positive words with the right music, then that will make your plants really bloom and blossom. So, use music as part of your everyday life in the most positive ways. Music in the form of chanting is one of the most powerful tools that we have. Chants already, when they're said in a certain way, they carry really powerful energies and they can accelerate your life transformation. They can accelerate the change that's happening within you. When you place certain intentions, and if your intentions are pure, and then you go about to do to sing a certain chant or to chant a certain mantra, in a way that connects you with certain beings, you are literally connecting with these higher beings. You are connecting with these higher frequencies. There are mantras that connect you with nature, mantras that connect you with the sun, mantras that connect you with water. There are mantras that connect you with higher beings of love and light, mantras that connect you with the angelic realm. Because even in the different beings in the angelic realm, there is a musical choir. They chant, they sing. And sometimes when you call upon the angels and the archangels, you spell out the syllables in a musical way with a certain tune, and you don't just say the name. I've seen this in so many places and I've tried it myself, and it's just beautiful when you want to call upon the higher beings, for example, for help or to embody some of their energy or to help you accelerate something that you're trying to transform, like a healing, or if you need help, or if you want to offer a healing, offer assistance to others, and you need the angels to be there around them and you want to invoke their presence, you say it with a certain tune. You say it just like you're chanting a mantra, just like you're singing a song. And the angels and the archangels, they actually love that. So music is used for darkness, to evoke the darkness, and it's also used to evoke the light. It's a double-edged sword. We have to be very careful with the music that we expose to the ears of children and babies in specific. Nowadays, there's this channel that's very famous. I'm not going to say what it's called, but this channel is actually sugar for babies. It's getting babies addicted, just like adults would be addicted to sugar or a drug. Why? Because it hyper stimulates different parts of the brain. It's a lot of color. It's a lot of stimulating frequencies. And when the children are used to this, then it would be very hard for them to respond properly to anything else. When something hyper stimulates the brain of a baby or a child, because their brain is like a sponge, when you're hyper stimulating these cells, they will not respond properly to anything less than that hyper stimulating level. And therefore, this gets them addicted to that channel. This gets them addicted to the visuals in that channel. So please be very careful in what you expose the ears of your babies and your children to. Music that's used in advertising is also, carrying subliminal messages and also has an influence on our psychology and the way we behave. So always be awake, always be aware, when you're watching an advertisement, do you really need that product, or are you just being brainwashed into buying it? Lots of the times we do this impulse shopping where we see something, the music is great, we just buy it only to realize later that we didn't really need it. So always use your discernment, think twice before you go ahead and be totally pulled by the ad and the beauty of the colors and the way that it sounds. Always use your wisdom, use your discernment, and always look at things through the eyes of the soul, as opposed to the eyes of just the body. Music has a healing effect on the body, of course. Music can help regenerate the cells. Music can help reduce stress and reduce, therefore, cortisol levels. Music can saturate the brain with the happy neurotransmitters, dopamine. Music is used with patients of dementia and Alzheimer's to help them tag memories, because it makes them recollect their old memories. So that's the direct connection between music and visual stimulation, because it does awaken your memories, and that's why it's used with patients of Alzheimer's and dementia. It's musical therapy. Music will also help your cells regenerate when the right frequencies are used, and when you listen to them, this can help reduce inflammation in the body. It can help you regain your strength, your well-being. And so musical therapy is something that should never be underestimated. It's really powerful. It's a powerful tool in healing. We use frequencies all the time, even in meditations. When you're meditating, we use sometimes frequencies in the background, not as the main healing frequency. We use them just as support. The main frequency is the one that you, as if you're someone guiding a meditation, the main frequency, the main music is the one that you yourself channel through and bring to the people who are meditating with you. That should be the main music, because we are musical instruments. Even when you're guiding, let's say if you're a sound healer and you're guiding a healing, yes, use all the instruments, but make sure that you are the main musical instrument. You are the main channeler who is bringing the right frequency through. So be the musical instrument. Yes, use musical instrument, but more importantly, be the musical instrument, because you carry all the frequencies within you anyway, and you can play any frequency that you like, and you have the power to connect with the higher frequencies. And what that takes is an activated heart, a heart where the powers are so amplified that you have the ability to connect to anything you want to connect to make your life better and to make the lives of people around you better and better. So that's what I focus on in your Ultimate Alignment program, the powers of the heart, because that will enable you to discover the musical instrument that you already are. So remember that you are a vibrational being, and since you are a musical instrument, make sure that you are walking around as a loving, joyous, peaceful melody that's emanating light and love and joy all around you. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment below and I'd be happy to answer them. Remember, if you're a new member of the group, you get a free frequency upgrade call with me where we go deeper into your particular challenge or situation. I give you immediate tips and we kickstart your frequency upgrade. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next week. Take care.